It's been more than a week since Trump's mugshot was released, and Fox News has finally decided on a narrative: racism. I know I shouldn't be surprised, but I don't think anyone could have expected the sheer level of mental gymnastics. The coverage started with Laura Ingraham claiming that Trump's mugshot mirrors the mood of the nation, which, to be fair, is true if that mood is ruining Christmas for all of Whoville. But less than an hour later, Raymond Arroyo came with a new narrative.
And as one black lady I spoke with earlier today here in New Orleans said, Trump's a gangster. And that means he has cred among a new block of voters.
Yeah. According to Raymond Arroyo, Trump is now a, quote, gangsta, which means all black people love him. It's a lot to assume Raymond Arroyo has ever spoken to a black person, much less empathized with one, but he wasn't the only one with this line of thinking. Here's Jesse Waters less than an hour later.
The mugshots turned Trump into a sympathetic character in black America.
Waters then compared Trump to MLK and John Lewis, and then doubled down this past week.
Black Americans throughout our history have felt unfairly victimized by the system. Historically, there's some truth to that. The mugshot unintentionally created a bond between Donald Trump and black Americans.
There is just so much to unpack here. First of all, haven't you spent years talking about how the justice system is super fair and how systemic racism isn't real? And second, there is so much that's offensive here, but the idea that a man on trial for disenfranchising black voters is now a universal hero to them or anyone, much less a hero comparable to Martin Luther King Jr., is disgusting. I mean, Jesse Waters is truly one of the most racist people at Fox News. It's unbelievable that he thinks he can relate to anyone that doesn't have a country club membership and a hate crime under their belt. Honestly, that applies to a lot of Fox News. And also to the guy with the mugshot.
'Cause I'm just king. Anywhere else I'd be a tame. Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blood fragility?
Hey, I like your shoes. If you think that Donald Trump getting a mugshot that will ultimately just raise him money and give him free exposure in press, I want to eat that.
Hi, Ms. Peters.
Oh, hi, Steve. It's nice to see you again. It's going good, thank you.
I want to go straight to the point. I'm actually extremely cornswoggled at the discussion of sexuality and gender left-wing studies in my little angel's classroom.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'd be more than happy to elaborate on what I'm teaching them.
Let me stop you right there. My wife tells me to communicate my emotions, and I think I'm doing a fine job of doing so. I'm cornswoggled. In my ideal classroom, God sees everyone as equal. He loves everybody the same.
Okay.
If you're talking about boys kissing boys in my little angel's classroom, her stomach feels funny, and so does mine, to be quite frank. It's almost like we don't understand what you're saying, but that's not the case. So I solemnly request that you seize the teaching of the left-wing ideology in my little angel's classroom. And instead shift the curriculum to a history of the U.S. Military excursion, so from a lightly obstructed perspective.
You know what, Steve? You know, I teach the kids plenty of history, and I think that the curriculum we're teaching right now is actually making them feel more comfortable in the classroom.
Sure. So what actually matters to you? The opinions of the parental forces that are not in the classroom, or the conclusions of the general scientific community? That's what I thought, the parental comfortability, right? So I think we should actually shift the curriculum away from those deep state organizations that are trying to feed you misinformation and make my little precious girl kiss another girl.
Do you want her
and instead of her to find a good old country boy who values small town.
Do you want her to kiss you instead?
Don't fuck no bitch that fucking with your dog. That law. If you come up, don't forget about your dog. That law.
I think a lot of people watched the debates last night and thought Nikki Haley is the best out of the group. Which, compared to that group, maybe it's true. But Nikki's foreign policy beliefs are quite frightening.
Those to protect our homeland, Nikki.
Israel
that
needs
is the answer.
America. America needs Israel.
Okay, Governor DeSantis, you.
To date, the United States has provided Israel $158 billion. Between their Iron Dome and their general apartheid state, they do need America. And to say it's the frontline defense against Iran, America just gave the Iranian regime a bunch of money too. She is just very much into foreign intervention, it seems.
Somebody asked me today, how could Maui be on fire? How could Hawaii be on fire if it's an island surrounded by water? Well, before the United States colonized Hawaii, Maui was home to very rich wetlands. However, mass water diversion toward sugar plantation destroyed and ate at these wetlands. And water resources are continually depleted today by tourism. The devastation that we're seeing in Hawaii right now really brings home the point that the environmental crisis is a colonial issue, and that movements toward environmental justice must also be decolonial to get at the root of the issue, and must include indigenous people. Link in my bio has a spreadsheet where you can donate to the families that are being directly impacted by this disaster. Please share if you can't donate, and please donate, especially if you have vacationed at Hawaii before.
What exactly has Trump done to hard launch his prisoner era? He looks like me when I haven't had my first fun drink of the day. Here are all of Trump's big oopsies. Before he left the White House, Trump took a bunch of secret documents to his Florida resort instead of returning them like he was supposed to. Like, who among us hasn't stolen a bathrobe from a hotel? Turns out that's illegal, so the FBI got a search warrant and seized hundreds of those classified documents. Moral of the story, never steal a girl's diary, even if it's the US. Trump's former lawyer paid our Lord and Savior Stormy Daniels to shush about her and Trump's affair. This money was recorded as legal expenses from the Trump campaign. That's like making a GoFundMe for your short film and then using that money to take an Uber to your ex. Listen, I don't not get it. This writer sued Trump for SA, and then after he made rude remarks about her, did a second lawsuit for defamation and SA. Our girl won the second lawsuit, but the first lawsuit still has to go to trial. Trump supported storming the Capitol was not a good look for guess who? Trump. Trump is charged with attempting to overthrow the 2020 election and starting an insurrection. This is the one that gave us the mugshot. Trump and 18 others were charged with violating the RICO Act, which targets criminal enterprises. The RICO Act was originally made to target criminal groups such as the mafia or dudes at a lesbian bar. JK, that's not illegal, but if I were president. This one is the toughest one for Trump because he can't pay his way out of it since it's a state case, and also it could mean up to 20 years in prison. The wildest thing throughout all of this is he can still run for president. Girlies, it is so important to have the confidence of a man with 100 criminal accounts.
Wait. Vikings used to wear box braids? I literally didn't know that. Oh my god. Like, let me look up Vikings, and if they're wearing box braids, then I guess white people can wear them. I didn't know that. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, so I googled Viking, and like, oh my god, girl. You were so right. Like, look at that. She went to the hair store, got her some hair, put that shit in. Literally, oh my gosh, I owe you guys an apology. I had no idea you guys have been getting your hair done for 7 hours, like, for this long. Have black people been oppressing your culture this entire time? Like, look at them. Oh my god. So now whenever I see a white girl wearing box braids, I know that she's imitating Vikings, her ancestors, and not black people. That's why there were so many people in 1950 who were white wearing box braids, right? There were so many. We can name like 12 at least. Like, how silly was it of me to think that white people only started wearing box braids around maybe 1990, 2000s when they really started, right around the time that black people started doing it. That's insane because black people started doing it way later than white people, way later. I just want to say that I'm so sorry to all the white people who have been getting box braids, you know, as a tradition since the Vikings. Like, I'm so sorry, and I would love to educate myself more in the matter, and I would love to see pictures of, like, your mom in the 80s or 70s, like, you know, rocking her box braids, or, like, you know, it would be great if I could see, like, your grandmother in the 50s rocking them, but, like, if not, that's okay. I know that pictures get ruined and stuff. Like, pictures of maybe your mom doing your box braids as a kid, that would be amazing. Anyway, white power, see you later.
I didn't grow up in money. But you know the word privilege gets used a lot? Well, you know what I did?
Vivek, what did your parents do for a living again? Looks like your dad worked as an engineer and patent attorney for General Electric, and your mom worked as a geriatric psychiatrist. You came from no money? An engineer at General Electric is making some money. Obviously, it could be different, but this is a pretty large range. And your mom being a geriatric psychiatrist in Ohio is probably around this range. This obviously isn't exact or necessarily when he was growing up. I gotta mention your high school too, which is currently taxing $16,000 a year for tuition. Where did you come from, Ian? But maybe I'm missing something. That was a joke. You went to Harvard and interned at a hedge fund. There is nothing wrong with your parents coming here with nothing, facing adversity, and achieving success. All power to them and the opportunities that they provided you. But no way you get on a debate stage with millions watching and say a statement like that. I came from a small town. I pulled myself up with nothing but the straps on my boots. And a small combined household income of over $200,000 and a small loan of $16,000 every year for high school. That's what.
Let me put you on this because this makeup look is so easy. I can get it done in like 10 minutes if I need to. Starting off with moisturizer. Then I'm going to take this angled fluffy brush and just brown eyeshadow. Then I'm going to make a line like this following my cheekbone. And I'm also going to contour this part of my face and then connect the lines. Taking more brown, I'm going to go like under my chin like this and under my jawline. I'm also going to contour from here, and I like to blend it out here more, down my nose. Then I'm just gonna blend out all of it. Next is neck contour. I like to contour right here because when I swallow, my neck bone moves like the most there. So I'll just make like a little circle. And I will also make a line going down there. Now, for the mustache, I take a brush like this for eyebrows. Then I add it to my upper lip here, 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 and just put like a really bad fake mustache to start. And then I literally just take my finger and I blend them out. Just so when I do put the brow gel on it, it has like a dark base so it looks more natural. Get yourself an eyebrow or eyelash spoolie. Take your brow gel and put it on the back of your hand. Then roll the little bristles in there. This I just like to do because the applicators that come with these don't work very well usually. Then I take a mirror and go really close to my face just to find those little peach fuzz hairs, and then I start coating them very gently and precisely. This is literally like the longest part of this whole process, just because I'm trying to not get the brow gel on my skin and just on the hair, because if you get it on your skin it looks a little too muddy. And then after I'm done applying this to like all the hair on my upper lip, I will brush it downwards to try to get any clumps out, and also just to make the hair more realistic and less messy. This last part is just doing your eyebrows, and that's very much optional if you already have nice eyebrows. I don't, so I'm gonna do mine. If you're wondering how I do that, I just outline my brows and then I fill them in like a coloring book. I know this looks crazy, but once I blend it out with the spoolie, I promise it won't look insane anymore. I forgot one last thing. This is optional as well. If you want to take a little bit of eyeshadow once more and just like contour underneath your lips like this, and then blend it out. Another thing I like to do sometimes, because I have really big feminine eyes, is I will take some brown eyeshadow, just the same that I use for my whole face, and put it in my waterline, and that kind of makes my eyes look a little smaller. And that's literally it. All done. If any of y'all try this out, please tag me in the videos, and if you have any more questions about it, let me know, because I'd love to answer. Okay, bye.
I'm watching the Republican national debate because one of us has to do it, and the first thing that I want to say is that like the opening sequence is giving like Gladiator vibes. I think that is what they're going for. Now they're debating the lyrics to a country music song, and I just want to say we're almost 10 minutes. We're 10 minutes in. It's 10 minutes in and no one has addressed the elephant who's not in the room. All right, Nikki Haley did it. She's talking about how much money Donald Trump spent. And Mike Pence is like, that's not real money. We spent it on the military, so it doesn't count. Okay, they're doing climate change. And the moderators were like, everybody who believes that climate change is like, people are contributing to it, like raise your hands. And before they could, Ron DeSantis was like, no, let's have this debate. In Florida, there are hurricanes. And then people started cutting him off. And then Vivek Ramaswamy came in and he was like, well, I'm the only person here who really, really believes in fracking in his soul. And then Chris Christie, in my actual favorite burn thus far of the evening, was like, you sound like ChatGPT. And then Nikki Haley was like, well, look, and tried to sort of associate herself with Margaret Thatcher, which of course she's doing that. It didn't occur to me before, but of course they just did abortion, and the moderators were like, what are you guys gonna do about the fact that your entire party's views on this issue are unpopular? Like, they're not even popular with the majority of your voters. And then pretty much all of them went on to be like, I don't care about that. What's important is that we continue to be able to use people's bodies as incubators. Like, that's what matters to me. Fuck my voters. They're talking about guns, and Chris Christie is like, the real issue here is not guns in general. Guns are fine, unless Hunter Biden has one. Okay, the moderators just asked Ron DeSantis, who is really not the main character of this event in the way that I thought that he might be, if he could actually start answering the questions that they ask him instead of just pontificating. And he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. The moderators asked about the pledge that they all have to sign to show up for the debates. It's like, I promise to support whoever becomes the Republican Party's nominee. And then they were like, so if when Donald Trump becomes the party's nominee and then he gets convicted of crimes, if he gets convicted of crimes, are you still going to support him? Like, how do you feel about that? Raise your hand if you would still vote for him. And all of them were like, yep, I would still vote for him. Chris Christie was like, yeah, I mean, sort of like a half raise of my hand. Vivek Ramaswamy, like, absolutely auditioning for vice president, was like, Donald Trump is like my favorite human being to walk the earth. He's undoubtedly the best president of all time. I think that like one day this guy is going to have an extremely toxic talk show, but like right now he thinks he's auditioning for vice president. And then Chris Christie was like, guys, we do have to run against the front runner. Why is no one else trying to run against the front runner? I know I haven't said anything about Doug Bergman yet, but honestly, it's because I don't think there's really anything to say about him. They just asked Tim Scott if he could like fix the decline of faith in America, and he was like, yeah, I don't really believe in the separation of church and state. But more importantly, what I think we should do is break the backs of the teachers' unions. They just asked Chris Christie if he would like tell us the government secrets about UFOs if we elect him president. And he was like, UFOs can be scary, but you know what's scarier? Teachers' unions. Okay, and their closing statements, Asa Hutchinson, who I kind of think looks like Voldemort, was the only one to really directly discuss the Trump of it all, and like hardly. Like he was just like, I don't think we need 4 more years of Donald Trump. There are a few more people like skated around it. They were like, who can win in the general, wink, wink. And I'm not like an official political analyst or anything, but I think that was devastating for Ron DeSantis.
Nobody asked him to go straight to Nazis, right?
Love you, Ryan. But I think that this is also one of the reasons why everyone's taking issue with that video. Even like abolitionists, leftists, like people were like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because why are you focusing on a group that is damn near a protected class in this country? Like for a lot of leftists, we've already done, like a lot of us, I'm not going to say all of us, but a lot of us have already done like the unpacking of what it means to believe that everybody deserves food, housing, and like, basic human rights. Like that also includes Nazis, obviously, but like I'm never gonna get on here and say, and I believe that Nazis deserved anything that they want. And I also only believe in free speech so far as the government should not be able or allowed to exercise like force against people that, speak out against the government. That is quite literally the only form of free speech that I believe in. Everything else, quite literally everything else, I do not believe you should have the ability to say without either legal consequence or social consequence. And I know for a fact that being fired from a job for saying hateful things on the internet is not something you can be protected by under our Constitution. And I don't think that it should be protected under any constitution because jobs are not run, or the majority of jobs are not run by the government. Maybe the government shouldn't be allowed to fire you for things that you say and being hateful on the internet, but like regular as people, like that is a social consequence. If you want to be a Nazi on the internet, a social consequence is that you will be fired by a fellow person that works and like has to be near you and associated with you. Like Ryan said, if you want to have a conversation about how like people don't deserve to like die just because they're in red states, just because they happen to be voting against their best interest, like they still deserve the rights that I'm fighting for, like I understand, like I feel like that's a conversation that makes a lot more sense because those are people that are actually suffering. Those are people that like, or I don't know, even if they don't know they're suffering, like the things that they're voting for are obviously in their worst interest. And so like I know, and we all know that is going to lead to suffering in some sort of kind of way. And so advocating for myself is also advocating for them. And that's fine, but I'm never going to get on here and be like, protect the people that literally want me dead. Like, no, I'm advocating for myself, advocating for people like me, and then, when we get our rights, everyone else gets their rights. No one's free until everyone's free. The way that it works is like, if it unlocks for the bottom, it unlocks for people above the bottom, even if they're not at the top. Like, that's just, everyone knows that's how that goes. Like, yeah, Nazis deserve food and housing because Nazis are people, and all people deserve food and housing. But why would I get on the internet and make that the hill that I die on? Why would I do that? When I could advocate for people that have it much worse than them and probably also achieve the results of getting Nazis food and housing.